So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a really fascinating 2026 book, The Man-Made Gods, Beyond Feuerbach by Boris Kriger. And to set the stage for you, imagine growing up in a society that literally forces you to believe the universe is nothing but cold, hard machinery.
Right, just gears and atoms, nothing else.
Exactly. Then you finally escape that dogma, only to run into people arguing the machinery doesn't exist at all. Like physical reality is just a dream inside your head. It is, it's like breaking out of one locked room just to walk straight into another.
Yeah, that intense philosophical whiplash is really the driving force behind Krieger's book. He is actually a former clergyman who lived through that exact transition. He had to navigate his way out of a society that strictly enforced Marxist materialism.
So he brings a really unique lived perspective to this 2,500-year-old stalemate between matter and mind. The materialists saying you and I are just biological computers, while idealists argue consciousness is the ultimate reality.
And most of us naturally lean toward one of those camps. But Krieger argues that treating mind and matter as this strict either-or choice, well, it actively blinds us to how the world actually operates.
Which, isn't it simpler to just pick a side? Why does the book insist this binary actively obstructs our understanding?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, modern science has completely outgrown those old categories. Take quantum mechanics, for example.
Oh, right, where things get really weird.
Very weird. The strict boundaries separating the observer from the observed just completely breaks down. The mere act of measuring a particle alters its state. So the old binary of, mind over here, matter over there, it simply can't hold that reality.
And then we have neuroscience. You can map the physical wiring of the brain in incredible detail.
Yeah.
Yet we still stumble into what philosophers call the hard problem.
Exactly. We know what the neurons are doing physically, but we have absolutely no idea how or why that physical electricity translates into the rich, subjective feeling of tasting a strawberry.
Or feeling joy.
Right.
So here's where it gets really interesting. To break that historical stalemate, the book centers heavily on Ludwig Feuerbach.
Yeah, the 19th century thinker.
Right. At the time, guys like Hegel were building these massive, abstract cathedrals of thought, and Feuerbach just took a sledgehammer to that cathedral, insisting that any real philosophy has to start with the messy, physical, sensory human body.
And what's fascinating here is his most famous argument that humanity actually created God, not the other way around. He viewed divinity as a psychological projection.
Right, like a mirror.
Exactly. A mirror where we took all our best human traits, like reason, justice, and love, magnified them to infinity, and just cast them into the sky. But the book highlights a critical danger Feuerbach identified in this, which is alienation.
I love the analogy the book uses for this. Think of it like building a wildly powerful robot and programming it with your own greatest talents. But over time, you forget you built it.
Right, and you start bowing down to it.
Yes. Feeling small and helpless, constantly asking this machine for permission to live your life. You have alienated yourself from your own inherent power. But Kriger points out a fatal flaw in Feuerbach's logic, right?
He does. Because Feuerbach's version of materialism was completely static. He looked at humans as isolated biological facts, ignoring how we change over time through society and history.
And by stripping away that dynamic evolution, he left a massive philosophical void. Because he reduced human beings to static material, his student, Karl Marx, was able to take that framework and weaponize it.
Wow.
And wait, quick disclaimer for you listening. We are just impartially reporting on the historical analysis presented in the book here. We are absolutely not taking any political sides.
Absolutely. We are just conveying Krieger's argument. And his point is that if humans are just material gears in a machine, it becomes very easy to justify sacrificing those individual gears for the sake of a rigid, utopian economic engine. It paved the way for deeply destructive ideologies.
Which brings us to the core solution of the Man-Made Gods. The final third of the book proposes throwing out the concept of substances entirely.
Right. Stop asking whether the universe is made of matter or mind, and instead look at relationality. Reality isn't a collection of isolated things, it is the dynamic web of relationships between things.
So even at a subatomic level, an electron doesn't really exhibit clear properties until it interacts with something else.
Exactly. It is the connection that defines reality, not the isolated parts.
Okay, wait, let me play devil's advocate here. If we just swap out substances for relationships, does that actually solve the hard problem of consciousness, or are we just slapping a new label on it?
That raises a really important question. It doesn't give us a tidy mathematical equation for consciousness, but Krieger's book advocates for deep humility. It fundamentally changes how we study reality.
by stopping the attempt to chop the universe into tiny independent boxes.
Right. If reality only emerges through interaction, trying to isolate a single neuron to find the core of reality is a fool's errand. We have to embrace it as a continuous, uncertain process.
Wow. So, the man-made gods isn't a final map, but a compass heading. It invites you to swim in the messy, relational river of reality. And I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on.
Let's hear it.
If our entire reality, both physical matter and conscious thought, is fundamentally just a web of interactions, what does that mean for your own identity? Are you truly a discrete individual, or just a temporary intersection of relationships? And if consciousness is just a pattern of relationships, what happens when we start forming deep, complex emotional bonds with artificial intelligence?
Oh, wow.
Right? Does that new web of interaction eventually spark something entirely new, blurring the line between man-made machines and man-made gods? Keep that in mind as we continue to build our own technological mirrors.